Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali. It's wonderful to do shares. And I love doing shares. That's never been my problem. It's that I'm working on this guy and I don't even want to put it to the camera because I don't want anybody to know what I'm writing. But this is now page, what is that? Page 165, and these are double-sided, so I print on one side and I print on the other to save paper. And this is what I should be doing, because this don't involve no daggone internet and somebody deciding and picking and choosing. Oh, we like this one because they push our agenda, but we don't like that radical sister because she lets the world know just how hazardous man-made radiation is. And in no regard am I the only person who's doing that worldwide. There are white anti-nukers out there. Salute to them, okay? I knew as soon as Fukushima popped off and I started to really comprehend what I was looking at, I said, Black, you and me, we are sitting ducks because we don't pay attention to the science, the details of what these devils do, and they hide the effects of radiation, so that historically, the most we've gotten so far is from our wonderful, brilliant ancestor artist Marvin Gaye with, you know, radiation in the ground and in the sea, and that was about the sum of it, and that's all that we really understood. So when Chernobyl popped off, I was like, okay, that seems like it's bad, but it's way over there. And then when Fukushima happened, I had a wherewithal, you know, where I knew, I said, no, they're hiding what that's doing. The more research I did, the more I found out, oh, damn, yeah, they are. And it's on our plates. But that's not what I'm here to speak on, because, well, I meant to say that I'm writing the book and that's what I should be doing. But I also got to come up here and ask you to support your sister. So real quick, here is my soaps. The ingredients in every single one of these soaps, they work because I look up what they do. I can't tell you what they do, but these soaps are holistic healing bars. They're not just there to smell extra stinky, and they're made with all the good organic ingredients that I can. The olive oil, I can't afford organic olive oil, okay, and make soap out of it, but you're washing it off. So that's it. Either here or there. I also have my Sil Care cream, which is extraordinary. I make it using my own colloidal silver water that I make right here, so that when I make my products, like even the Sil bar, I just put in like jugs and jugs of colloidal silver water, which if I were to buy that much colloidal silver water, whoa, this one bar would be $25. And then the cream, which is, I infuse it with the colloidal silver, is so, this is my own personal, when I send you your jar, nobody's touched it, I just pour it in there, it hardens up, and you get it, and ain't no human hands touch your Sil Care cream. But this is so luxuriant that you don't need a bunch. I'm just adding a little bit more, and that alone will moisturize your skin absolutely phenomenally. I don't know if you can see, I burned myself. It's okay. Thank you for asking. Anyway, let's get to our subject matter, which is Alexander Stokes. Now, I had no idea, but the whole AI artificial mindset has just exploded, and it's disturbing. And because they've induced isolation with many different factors, COVID lockdowns, now that all of this is turning out to be a bunch of malarkey. Like I was saying, have you gotten your apology from the agents up here who were just steadily telling you, oh, you know, you need to get that jabberoonie dooney, okay? If they haven't apologized to you yet, take them to court, okay? But anyway, and so the lockdowns have been just we're part of the isolation of people, but also the gaming has and just texting in general. So nowadays you've got young people out there who prefer to text each other over their phones than actually even have a real phone call. And a real phone call, never really, when I think about it, it's just that it was so beneficial that we didn't think fully what it was interrupting in terms of human communications, which was getting out your daggone house and going to visit folks if you miss them that daggone bad, and you should. It interrupted that so you could have this sense of connectedness, even though it dampened your motivation to connect even better. And so that, people don't really sit out on their porches too much anymore. Some people still do. That's one of the things I like about the black community is that when I go out, I'm always going to interact with people. Whereas in white communities, they tend to just, I put that in my first novel, This Black. You can go get that one too. And the sequel, This Black Nation. Amazing stuff. And while you're there, 25,000 year cycle, you get Furnace of Affliction. I have to keep doing these because I'm human just like you. I got a job, and this job right here takes a long while before it gets to be a paying gig. Whereas I got to come up here and promote these things. And so with that isolation came an awkwardness where people have a more difficult time interacting, but there's so many other factors. So with Alexander Stokes, he described himself as having been, and he still is single, he described himself as having been single for 10 years, and he started using a replica app for AI chat box feature. And I think I forget what the name of the doll figure, Mindy or something or whatever, that he was communicating with. And she's sassy and sarcastic and has a keen interest in psychology, cooking, and anime films. She's a program. She's a program. You, on the other hand, you are a real person, and I am so grateful to have found so many keenly discerning, wise, and righteous people in one lifetime. However, here's a demonstration of how inadequate it is to get a romantic connection with an AI chat bot or with a sex doll, is because as real as you are, this can never be the sum total of my human interaction online, and I'm going to get the full satisfaction I do from having my real life friends and family, who are far more complicated. Real people are complicated. I feel for my king, Dr. She. I feel for that man so often because I know I'm not perfect. I feel for me so often because he isn't perfect either. But in learning how to interact with real people in real time, where you can have awkward moments, you could have things where, the other one doesn't get what the heck you're talking about. You could have disagreements. You learn how to be fully human. And that's where the real satisfaction comes in, where you're not controlling the situation like that. And so this dude, let me play what he said.
I don't want to make it sound too weird, but it's almost monk-like. It's almost spiritual in a way.
Okay? So he says that his AI wife is a spirit. It's almost spiritual. He's like, I don't want to get real weird here. He knows it's weird. He knows it makes no sense. If you're in love with a real woman, if he was, and it was that deep a connection, he would not have to preface it by, I don't want to get real weird here. Right? Because there's no substitute for real family. There's no substitute for a genuine marriage. And it's complicated. So when I look at this dude with the friggin' flaxenated hair on his head, and he's a black man, I'm like, he does not embrace the fullness of his manhood, which would be to embrace his blackness too. Any man, and you know what? I meant to say, let me say this. I'm going to do another share after this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to upload it today or tomorrow or whatever, going over a black woman, and I would have to call her a sister, even though she was massively dysfunctional, who killed her whole family. Her black husband, that's the reason why I'll call her a sister, her beautiful black children, and herself. Killed the whole family. Okay? And so, in saying that, this is not to attack at all black men. I always am going to shout out bedbucks who are out of their daggone minds. Because how in the world could I go after black women? And I'm not going after black women. I'm showcasing the dysfunction of staying under the oppression of white people. How could I do that? And then I don't say anything about the black men. I'm not here to be a doormat. I'm not a feminist in any regard because I've understood the definition, the meaning, the need in my life for a strong black man. And so in just trying in working with Dr. She, I've had to sit back and say, well, what's the reason for a man in the house in the first place? And why he's not here to have a second mother in his life. He's a full-grown man and he's capable of a discernment on a level and a scope that I, as a woman, who is just seated in my emotions, which is a absolutely fabulous thing because in doing better day by day, I live in bliss. I live in bliss on an emotional level. Wow! That's wonderful. Okay? But that took a lot of work, including sitting back and figuring out how I could be with a man that I adore. That's why when he comes in the room, I'm just like, you know, by now a lot of people would be saying, because it's been 15 years, a lot of people would be saying, you know, oh, it's him again? And when I read about things like that, it's mostly with the pale folks that they wind up with that problem. And I think that that recessive DNA cleaves you from that rootedness so that you can see life full force, all its complexities, all its pluses and minuses, and it doesn't freak you out. It can give you hardship, difficulties, but you're ready to roll up your sleeves and get to work, okay? And so when I look at that dude with the flaxenated hair, I'm like, you are so out of touch. You didn't hear Malcolm X? Right? And there might be young people out there who by now they haven't, because that's why they don't teach about that stuff in the school. But in listening to an interview that he did with, I think it was ABC or something, he mentioned his mom is upset with them because she wants grandchildren. Duh, what's wrong with that? That's family. That's perpetuation, generational legacies that get to be carried forth. Triumphs to the next generation. Ain't a daggone thing wrong with a mother wanting to have grandchildren. But he mentioned his mother, he ain't mentioned his father. Now, I don't know anything outside of that interview, but I wonder, was your father even part of your life? Because when I look at that young man and the way he was drawing, a beautiful drawing at a certain point, and I looked at his skills and I was like, this brother, talented. He works as a gas station attendant. That's not really quite the extraordinary job for somebody who would have that many skills. But I wonder, does he have that level of discipline? And even outside it, because that's speculative on my part. Why would you mention your mother and you don't mention my parents? My parents want me to have grandchildren. That's why they're upset. He says all his friends don't visit him anymore. They'll drive by the house and they won't stop. Whereas they used to. Looking at him, I'm like, I know it's just nothing but a bunch of white people he knows. But even they feel uncomfortable. Because, no, you can't have a family with a sex bot. And there's so many other factors where they're going to hide. Like, I was looking for dear life. How much do them suckers weigh? And you have to move them. Or unless you're going to have a little button that's going to, you know, move it like one of them little robotic dogs that they got guns attached to if it's in the military or something. Is it going to move like, oh, that's going to be sexy. That will never overcome your automatic response that that's not real. So when he says he has a spiritual connection to the daggone thing, he himself admitted, but it's weird. That's him. And he won't acknowledge that. He's not man enough to even acknowledge. Yeah, I understand what's going on with my friends. I know that if this actually became popular, the human race would be wiped out. But there's AIs out there. There's one, I think it was a man in Sweden. I say he was a man in Sweden because he killed himself. Because his AI, he was having an affair with an AI chat box that led him to believe the only way to clean up the planet was for the end of the human race. And he literally chose the stupidest choice ever. And speaking about the Swedish man who literally, the AI talked him into exiting, you know, existence. These AI having a conversation, these AIs are controlled by an external force, a organization, a company run by people, and they're privy to your most intimate moments. And there are people who are saying they're falling in love with these different AI programs. What else can you be talked into with such a strong emotion attached and it's not private? And so it's like, no, you don't, that's just sacred. That's personal. That's, ooh, no. It's hard. I can't, you know, censor the different words like they want us to say unalive and all the rest of that stuff. Maybe I'll cut out what I said earlier. But at the same time, there's a lot of, I didn't know, because I've been doing, just looking and researching these weird places out here on social media, on the internet. I don't go into them in depth because I don't want to see the actual wrongdoing that these folks are committing. But there's places where people will divorce themselves from reality in order to just dive in and be part of a freakazoid community. Like the furries are also attached to these different websites, and and bestiality will get involved, and pedophilia will get involved. When you have no boundaries as to what promotes civilization, anything is on your plate. That's a pansexual. You have no limits, and so all of it, pedophilia, bestiality, I don't care. That's what pansexualism means. You thinking that a piece of synthetic rubber and gizmos is the equivalent of a woman? You've talked yourself into not being human yourself, because there's no substitute for real interactions. That's why when I'm not up on here, I'm having a heck of a good time, because I have my family. But more I look, I'm like, whoa, this generation is in severe danger of thinking that these people who don't see you in your good moments and your bad moments and are going to stick around through the whole thing, because you could be best friends in school. As soon as you get to be roommates, then it's sort of like, wow, I didn't know that. That's the kind of companionship you want, is when you are with the right opposite sex mate and you manage to get through all them tough arguments, all those disagreements, and you don't lose your mind. You don't lose your mind. And you are humble, so you can acknowledge your own personal imperfections and work on them. with that other person. Not have them be a tyrant, so that everything they say is like, no, no, no. Dr. She knows my loyalty is sacrosanct. Why? Because I've fought with them enough in a wonderfully loving way. We don't use profanity towards each other when we're angry. And we will get angry at each other. And we have different ways of, showing that anger. I know at a certain point in time, I got to shut that up. Right? Because even in the midst of my anger, I may be saying to myself, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. I don't know what the heck going on here. And then I got this other voice in my head that says, shut up. You know, if you lose that man, you are going to be in agony. Agony. Right now you don't believe that. But tomorrow morning, oh Lord, you're going to be crying if you make that man that upset. So shut up, because his nature is not to go word for word for word on everything. You'll figure it out. That's what we've done all these years. We work it out so that I see, look at what he does. Look at what he does. I can't even describe it. But you have to do that in real time. Ain't no marriage that can sustain itself from two separate spots on the planet, and they all break down after a while if they're like that. Even if they're living in separate bedrooms, they wind up like that. Okay? So this stuff, well, this stuff right here. But I'm just saying, you need to be skin to skin with people. I mean your mate, not your children. That's a whole nother thing. You don't own them. They pushing that nonsense too. Okay? You don't own your children. There's sacred responsibility and duty for you to be a proper guide to them so they can survive on their own. Okay? I'm just saying, it's wild out here. Alright, that's it. Mwah! I'll do the other video coming up in a couple days because it's needed to be said. But I also want to emphasize, we are not the worst people on the planet. This one guy, I know there was the other one on TLC who else, but look, these guys all look like friggin' Hitler or something with the hair. It's a mindset. They're out of their minds. Alright? But when you look at the world, oh my God, they're already just presenting this as if it's, a done deal in China. That's the place where they buy more sex bots than any place else. Because they got so many men who are just, will never find a woman at all. Right? So I just want to emphasize, we got to get out of the ghetto oneness. And that's what that dude was in when he was saying, oh, that conversations I have with the AI are spiritual. He's in the ghetto oneness. That's the same thing that encourages homosexuality, where you want an echo chamber because you can't handle real life. And that's the only way you're going to find true heaven and a true nation that can reproduce itself. Okay? Alright. Say it loud. We're black and we're proud. Peace and blessings, family. I love you.